Hi guys, we're going to talk about the first topic for the semester called fundamentals. This is going to be a very long video, so if you guys want to take a break in the middle, just pause and take a break, okay? All right, so we're going to talk about the very basic concept of economics, and then we're going to go over two models for this class. Now, first, what is economics? Economics is really a social science because if you look at the resource, the good, the service of everything we have in the economy. It all goes back down to one key word. And this key word is called scarce. That everything we have is all scarce. We don't have enough of it at a zero price. So for every society, they got to answer some questions. So for all the limited resources we have, what do we produce? How do we produce them? And then how many do we produce? Once you produce them, who do we give it to? So all those questions are answered by each societies. And this process of how people decide what kind of how to allocate their scarce resource, we call this economics. Okay. And there are two types of economics. There's the microeconomics. It's a study of the economy on a small scale. So everything breaking down to individual market, individual consumer, individual business. That's called microeconomics. And then next is macroeconomics. So for macroeconomics, study of economy on a large scale. So for the entire economy, such as the price level, your GDPs, real output. So information affecting the entire economy, we call that the macroeconomics. And then really the key to remember this two words here, micro, so small scale, and then macro, big scale, okay? All right, so resource. For all the scarce resources we have, so resource is anything, whether gift of nature or result of production, or result of human effort that's used to produce other good and service. So resource is what we need to produce good and service. And then for resource, we can put into four categories. There are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship ability. So land is more than the land you're standing on. Land is all the natural resource we have. So coal, lumber, gold, silver, air, water. So all the natural resource we have in the economy, we have in society, we call this land. Okay, so not just land standing on, this is all the natural resource. And then labor is all the workers we have, and then also all the human knowledge we have. Now that human knowledge is very important because imagine I want to open a business. Let's suppose I want to open a restaurant and we're going to produce nothing else but only chicken fried rice. Should I hire you? Now you're a labor, but the key is, do you know how to make chicken fried rice? Right? So for my business to be successful, I need laborers who have skills. So the human capital is also important. So more than the people, also the human capital. And then capital here, capital is a little special too. This capital is not money. This capital is your physical capital. So your machines, your tools, your cars, your computers, your buildings, all those physical capital, they're called capital. Okay. And the last one is your entrepreneurial ability. That means you need one person to take charge, gather all the resource, put it together, run a business. We call this entrepreneurial ability. So these four categories: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurial ability. That's your resource. Now, if you notice that what's not in here is money. So is money a resource? So do business need money to survive? Well, sure, right? Because that's the whole thing for business. We need money. But to make stuff, do we need money? Now, think carefully before you answer this. To make, let's say to make chicken fried rice, do we need money? Now, you might want to say, yes, we need money. Why? To hire labor, right? So what we need labor. You might also say, yeah, we need money to do what? To buy chickens, right? So, which means we need chicken. So this money in these transactions, they're only an intermediary between the demand for the business and then what kind of resource they really need. So money and any other financial capital, they are not part of resource. Okay, so remember this, very important. Money is not part of our resource because what business need as resource, they need these four categories as resource: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial ability. Money is not part of it. Okay. All right, so scarcity is a condition where it results from inability to or limited resource to satisfy our unlimited wants. Um, we have limited resource, but we have unlimited desire. That we always want more stuff. You want more cars, you want a bigger house, you want more girlfriends. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. but we want more stuff. But there's only a limited number of resource. So this condition, when you have a limited resource and an unlimited wants, we call this a scarcity. Okay, well, go back. That's called scarcity. So for every resource we have in the economy, they all suffer from scarcity. Okay. And the next, opportunity cost. This is special cost. This opportunity cost, it's really what it is. It's just that what is that is the cost of opportunity. So this is not your money cost. Okay. Here's this. So this is not your money cost. This is just the cost of opportunities. So by definition, it's the value of the next best foregone alternative, the value of opportunity that you must give up when you choose one activity or opportunity instead of another. So which means that in order to do one thing, what other things you cannot do, that is your opportunity cost. So, so because this opportunity cost, that there is never free lunch. So no free lunch, okay? And the reason why we have no free lunch, now imagine we do have free lunch. Imagine tomorrow for lunch, and then I'll pay for it. So I will treat you guys to lunch, and I'm gonna go to that to open a new Chinese place of 45, so China Star, right? The new Chinese buffet. So for lunch, I'm gonna go to China buffet or China Star. I'll pay for it. So for you, you don't have to pay any money for it. Now, what is your cost? So think about it. I pay for lunch. You come with me. I pay for it. So what is your cost? Now you might say that you need to pay with your, you want to pay with your time, right? Time is a cost. Okay. Okay. You might also say that, oh, what about gas? Right? I need to drive over there. Well, don't worry about that. I will drive you. So no gas. So what other costs you might have? Well, don't forget this cost over here. Opportunity cost. So if you come to lunch with me, you probably have to take time off from work, or you probably have to skip a class, right? So all those other things you can do, but you couldn't do anymore, that is your opportunity cost. So for everything you do, there's always opportunity cost. That's why there is no free lunch. And then even right now, you sitting here listening to me talk for maybe an hour or so, you have opportunity cost, right? Because sitting here listen to me to talk, you cannot watch the new cat video on YouTube anymore, right? So that's opportunity cost. So for everything we do, there is opportunity cost, okay? And therefore there's no free lunch. And then next, we're gonna make some big assumptions here. And then these assumptions, guys, I want you to keep in mind because this will help you in the later studies, later chapters. This is pretty important stuff. So we're making some big assumptions about society, and especially what we call the rational decision makers. So key is we're assuming every person in the economy, we're all very rational. Now this term rational, you probably heard it before, but don't exactly know what that means. So to be called rational, they must follow three criteria. So first, self-interest. Therefore, any rational any rational person, the first thing you're gonna do is to do everything according to your own self-interest. So what makes you happy? Now, self-interest is different than selfish. Selfish. How spell selfish? Yeah. So self-interest different than selfish. So selfish means you want everything for yourself. Self-interest means you want to make yourself happy. So for example, that lady who died a long time ago, Mother Teresa. Is Mother Teresa selfish? She's not, right? Because she is building orphanage. She's helping poor people, asking for nothing in return. So she's definitely not selfish. But is she self-interest? Then yes, she's self-interest. The reason why she's doing all those good deeds for the poor people is to make herself happy, right? So that we call that self-interest. And then second, marginal decision making, that where this marginal making decision making, we're comparing the marginal cost and marginal benefit. So for everything you do, for everything you buy, if your marginal benefit is more, then you do it. But if your marginal cost is more, then you don't do or you don't buy that good anymore. Now, for example, many of you guys have a game console in the house. Right? You probably have an Xbox, you have a PS4, you have Nintendo. So think about it. Do you guys, anybody here have two of the same console in the house? No, I'm talking about two PS4 or two Xbox or two Nintendo. Probably not, right? Or you might maybe one for each person in the house, but you don't have one person with two game console, two of the same game console. And the reason why that is that this thing called marginal benefit, marginal cost. So let's say for PS4 costs you what, $250. So if you buy a PS4, your marginal benefit is pretty high because you can play a game on it. You can watch TV. I mean, you can watch Blu-ray on it, and the marginal cost for it is about $250. So marginal benefit is more than you buy this first PS4. Now, once you have your first PS4, you're thinking about a second PS4. Now, for the second PS4, it doesn't bring you that much marginal benefit because you already have one. You can already play the games. You can already watch, Blu-ray disc. So you probably don't need a PS4 anymore. So the marginal benefit for the second PS4 is pretty low. You don't get much benefit out of it. But how much does it cost you? It still costs you $250. So now you're comparing marginal benefit, which is very low now, and the marginal cost at $250. So what do? You don't buy the second PS4 anymore. So that's called a marginal decision-making process. Okay, and then another thing that you might want to know that this process where your marginal benefit is getting less and less as the more and more same consumption you have. So you're buying the same good, but getting less and less happy. It's called a diminishing marginal return. Okay. All right, and the last one, optimization, just means you do everything to the best ability. Okay, so to get the most out of it. Okay, so all three of this together is the rational behavior. All right, let's look at our first model. The first model for the class is called circular flow diagram. It's a very simple model. If you guys just know what it looks like and what everything goes where, you should be fine. Okay, so for this model, it's a visual model of the economy. It shows how money flows and how resource flows. So I have two actors. We have household and firms. And then for the market, we have two markets. This is the key here. There are two type of market in here. The first one is called a market for goods and service. The second is called a market for factor production. This is your resource. So the market for resource. Okay. So let's look at this. Right, how about this resource? All right. So for two parties, firm and household. Now household, we own all the factor productions. So we own like the labor because we are the labor. I'm going to sell or rent our resource to companies for income. Once we have the income, I'm going to buy goods and service. And then for firms, it's the opposite. So firms, they want to buy or hire factor productions or resource using to produce goods and service, and they will sell goods and service. And then for our two market, the market for factor productions, household, we're going to supply land, labor, and capital to the market for factor productions, and then firms will buy those resources, and then in return they'll pay us with wage, rent, and profit, and we call this the income for the household. And then once household has income, we're going to take the income, go to our market for goods and service, going to buy goods and service, spend the money, and then company call this the revenue, and then they will give us the good and service. Okay, so this diagram here is called a circular flow diagram. Now, if you notice that there are two color arrow here, the outer bound, the green arrow, representing the flow of money. The red arrow representing the flow of resource or good and service. Okay, and then the question is, let me ask you a question. So, Between household and firms, which one is on the demand side? Let me pause for a second. You think about it, okay? So between household and firms, which one is on the demand side? Is it household? It's not household. Could it be firms? It's not firms. So who's on demand side? The answer is it depends. The answer to every question in your life. Okay, so it depends. It depends on what? It depends on which market you are talking about. Now, for the market for goods and service, this is like your Walmart, your HEB. So in those markets, household on the demand side, and then firms on the supply side. Now, for the market for factory productions, household on supply side. We supply labor, land, and capital. Firms on demand side. They're demanding land, labor, and capital. Okay, so about which one's on demand, which on supply, make sure you know which market you're talking about. So for market for goods and service, household demand side, firms on supply side. And then for market for factory productions, they're reversed. Okay, they're reversed. All right. Our second model is called a production possibility frontier. So what this shows, it shows a combination of two good economy can possibly produce given available resource and available technology. So one key word here I don't want you guys to mislook or overlook is this thing called can possibly. So this PPF, the production possibility frontier, doesn't show us how much we are producing. So this curve over here shows you how much you can produce. What is the possibility given your resource and technology? Now, for example, let's suppose we have an economy that this economy can only produce two goods, computers and wheat. And then for these two goods, they're going to share one common resource. And this common resource is called labor, and it's measured in labor hour. Now, labor hour, just how many hours each person can work times how many laborers you have. So let's suppose we have 8 workers, and then every worker can work 10 hours a day. And for the entire day, we have a total of 80 labor hours. Okay. All right. So computers and wheat, and then labor, measuring labor hour. And let's suppose right now our economy, we have a total of 50,000 labor hours available for each month. And this is our fixed number of labor hours. All right, I'm going to do some combination possibilities. So let's suppose for the first combination, well, first, for every computer, it requires 100 hours. For every tons of wheat, require 10 hours. So for our first combination, we're going to do 50,000 hours on computer and then 0 hours on wheat. Now remember, this 50,000 is all we have. So for each combination, the maximum between the two is going to be 50,000 hours. Okay, so if we're spending 50,000 hours on computer production, how many computers can we produce? Now every computer requires 100 hours. Spending 50,000 hours on it, then 50,000 divided by 100, you have 500 computers. And then for wheat, we're spending 0 hours. 0 hours divided by 10 gives you 0. You don't spend any time on it. You don't have any wheat. So that's first combination. And then for a second combination, I'm going to do 40,000 hours on computer, 10,000 hours on wheat. And how many computers and wheat do we have? So same concept, 40,000 divided by 100, that will give you 400 computers. That's supposed to be a 0. 10,000 divided by 10, that give you 1,000 wheat. And then next for combination C, 250 computers, 2,500 wheat, and then 100 computers, 4,000 wheat, 0 computers, and 5,000 wheat. And this is our production possibilities. We have 5 possibility over here. All right, and I'm going to take these five possibilities and then draw our PPF. So for the PPF, we're going to put wheat on the vertical axis. Computers, that's supposed to be a P. Computers on the horizontal axis, and I'm going to draw the 5 points on there. So the first point is 500. Well, let me draw 100, 2, 3, 4. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. All right, on this 500 computers in 0 wheat, that's our point A. Next, 400 and 1,000, that will be a point over here. That's your point B. And then 2,500, 250, that's your point C. 4,100, that's your point D. And last one, 5,000, that's point E. So A, B, C, D, E, connect all the points. This line is your production possibility frontier. Okay, so just basically a line connecting all the production possibilities. That's our production possibility frontier. Let me show you a better graph the book has. Okay, I need to resolve this. It's a mess. Look, it's not easy writing stuff on the computer. Okay, you try it. All right, so this blue line, that's going to be our production possibility frontier. PPF. All right. Now for this PPF, it has some special properties. So the first property it has, it shows you what is the opportunity cost of the production. So guys, let me ask you a question. If we go from point A to point, well, let's go from point to point B. So from point A to point B, what is our opportunity cost? Now remember, that is the opportunity you must give up. So let's compare between A and B. So at A, we have 500 computers in 0 wheat. At B, we have 400 computers and 1,000 wheat. So if you go from point A to B, we gain 1,000 wheat, but we gave up 100 computer. So the opportunity cost of going from point A to point B is that you're going to give up 100 computers. That is the opportunity cost. Okay, so from this over here, this slope, it shows you what is the opportunity cost of each production of each good. Now, second point, can this economy at the same month produce 500 computer and 5,000 wheat? So that point is going to be 500 computer and 5,000 wheat. So can the economy produce this point? Well, the answer is no, we can't, because let's see how much hour this will require. So for 500 computers, 100 hours each, that's going to be 50,000 labor hour. 5,000 wheat, 10 hour each, that's another 50,000 labor hour. So together, this requires 100,000 labor hour. Do we have 100,000 labor hour? We don't. We only have 50,000 labor hour. So for this point, we call this impossible. Notice how this point is to the outside of our PPF. So any point that's outside of PPF, we call them impossible. Okay. Now, next, let's look at another point. So can this economy at the same month produce 100 computer and 1,000 wheat? So let's call this point F. Is this point possible? The short answer is yes, it is possible. Because if you look at how many hours this will take for 100 computers, 100 hour each, that's a 10,000, too many zero, 10,000 labor hour. For 1,000 wheat, 10 hour each, that's another 10,000 labor hour. So together, this will add up to 20,000 labor hour. Now, do we have 20,000 hours? Of course we do. We have more than that, right? So at this point, it is very possible. But another question is this point efficient? It is not efficient because we have 50,000 hours. If you go back, what just happened? 50,000 hours. If you're only using 20,000 hours, what do we do with the other 30,000 labor hour? Why are we doing this? It's left unused, right? So this point is called inefficient. And then for any point that's inside of the line, and you're doing that again, it's called inefficient because we are not using all the resources we have. Now, however, for any points on the line, so let's say for point C. For point C, can we do that? Of course we can do that, right? Because that's a production possibility. And also for point C, we are using 50,000 labor hours. So we call point C on the line efficient, using everything we have. So remember, points outside the line called impossible because we don't have enough resource. Points inside the line called inefficient because we're not using everything we have. And then points on the line called efficient because we're using everything we have. So points outside, impossible. Points inside, inefficient. And then points on the line called efficient. So one more time. Okay, so points outside called impossible because we don't have enough resource. Points inside called inefficient because we're not using everything we have. And then points on the line called efficient because we're using everything we have. So impossible outside, inside inefficient, on the line efficient. Okay, so remember that will be on your test, on your quiz. Okay, so we talk about this. Talk about this. Let's skip this, not important. All right, so we can also use PPF to show economic growth. So anytime if your PPF can be shifted outward, so shift in this direction, that is an economic growth. So if you can basically can produce more of both good or any good, that is an economic growth. If you look at the economy of Puerto Rico or the economy of Venezuela today, their economy are shifting inward. Their economy is contracting, okay, but for different reasons, but their economy is contracting. Okay, so as long as you can produce more of the good and service, then you have economic growth. So that's what you see. All right, the shape of the PPF. Normally, you're gonna see a PPF that's a straight line, but sometimes you might see a PPF that's a bolted outward. The reason why they might be bolted outward is that you might have a specialty in resource. That some resource might be good in one thing, but not good in other things. Then you're gonna have a bolted outward PPF. So let me give you an example. Let's suppose I have two person A and person B. And then we have a company, and then for our company, all we're doing is translating papers. We can translate either Spanish paper or Chinese paper. So just translating paper, nothing else. Now, for person A is very good in Chinese, not so much in Spanish. So person A in an hour can translate 2 Spanish paper and 10 Chinese paper. And then person B is reversed. Person B is pretty good in Spanish, but not so good in Chinese. They can do 10 Spanish paper in an hour and then 2 Chinese paper in an hour. Now, if our company, suppose right now we're very busy, that we don't have any Spanish paper right now. All we have is Chinese paper. So between A and B, how many Chinese paper can we do in an hour? And that will be 12. And then for Spanish, it will be the same thing, 12 too. Okay, so if you try PPF, we do Spanish, Chinese. So in an hour, can do 12 Chinese paper and 12 Spanish paper. Not this is not and, this is or. Okay, that's an R. That's not a V. Oh my God, my handwriting. That's even worse. There. Okay, that's an R. All right. So now let's suppose right now we have both papers, right? Both Spanish and Chinese. Then the person A should do Chinese, and then person B should do Spanish. So between two of them, if they specialize and then do what they're good at, then this will be the combination. So 10 Spanish for person B, and then 10 Chinese for person A. Then together we have 10 and 10. So if you draw the 10 and 10, so that's your 10 over here. That's your 10 over here. So 10 and 10. That point is your 10 and 10. So if you draw this line connecting 3 points, then see how the PPF is bolded outward, right? So that's your bolded PPF. That's because A and B has a specialized in properties or productions. Okay. All right. Right, so know what's the difference between a positive statement and a normative statement. So positive statement is any statement based on facts and numbers. That's called positive statement. Normative is any statement based on personal belief, personal opinion. That's called normative statement. So in economics, at least for our class, we try to stick with positive statement. So based on facts and numbers, based on what the word is. But normative is based on personal belief, and they tend to change. So we try to avoid those, especially for our class, because it's not always consistent. Um, Let me give you an example. Okay, so I want you guys to think about Justin Bieber. Think about 8, 9 years ago. Remember how cool Justin was back then, right? I mean, today, do you guys still like Justin Bieber? I don't know. I might have some Justin Bieber fan out there, but most people wouldn't. I mean, personally, I'm not a big fan of Justin Bieber. I was never a big fan of Justin Bieber. But what happened, right? Because our opinion of him changed. That's called normative statement. Okay. So remember, positive based on facts and numbers, normative based on personal belief, personal opinion. The other day, I was driving home on the highway and I listened to 104.1, and then this song come up. It sounds pretty good. And then I was wondering, wow, who is this? I looked down, it said Justin Bieber. I was shocked because I'm not supposed to like Justin Bieber. Okay. All right. So that's a normative statement. Now, let's talk about trade. So trade is important. We can use our PPF to talk about trade. Now, for example, we have two countries, U.S. and Japan. And then for two countries, they both produce the same two goods, computers and wheat. Um, and then each country have their own labor hour. That's the resource. Let's see how trade can benefit both country. Okay, so let's start with US first. So US same information. We have 50,000 labor hours, and then for every computer requires 100 hour. For every wheat require 10 hours. And if you draw the PPF just like before, then this is our PPF. So 50,500. Now, let's suppose US before trade. So let's suppose before trade, US is self-sufficient. Now, again, self-sufficient means you consume everything from what you produce. You don't buy from anybody else. Okay, so you consume only what you produce. And then if that's the case, let's suppose US is consuming this. Should be straight. What happened? So US is going to be consuming and producing at this point. So we're going to have 2,500 wheat and 250 computers. Okay, so that's our production and consumption point without trade. Now, now let's look at Japan next. So Japan has 30,000 labor hours, and then for every computer, you require 125 hours. For every tons of wheat, you require 25 hours. Okay, so let's look at Japan's PPF. So if you draw the PPF for Japan, at the maximum, they can produce 240 computers. So you get that from 30,000 divided by 125. That's 240 computers. And then they're going to have 1,200 tons of wheat. 1,200. That's because 30,000 divided by 25. And they give you 1,200 tons of wheat. Suppose Japan without trade, they're also self-sufficient. So they're also doing half and half. So let's just suppose Japan, before trade, they're consuming and producing 120 computers. And then half of this will be 600 tons of wheat. So that's Japan's consumption point with no trade. And then next, we're gonna have two country trade. So allow trade between Japan and US, and then more importantly, we're gonna pick a production point for each country. So we're gonna say that for Japan, they will be producing at this point. So when they're producing this point, that's a production point, they're producing 240 computers and 0 wheat. And then for US, we're gonna pick a point in the random. I'm gonna say US will produce, let's say over here. It's consumption point, production point. All right, so for US, we're gonna produce 3,400. Gonna produce 3,400 tons of wheat and 160 computers. So that's our US production point. Now, once each country produce that point, we're gonna have the country trade with each other. Okay, and then the term of trade is that we're gonna say US will send 700 tons of wheat to Japan, and then Japan will send 110 computers to US. Now let's see what's going to happen. Okay, so let me go back to US first. So for US, when we're sending over 700 tons of wheat. Now remember, we produce 3,400. So if we send away 700 tons of wheat, we're going to have 2,700 tons of wheat left. And then for computers, we produce 160 computers, but we're getting 110 from Japan. So 160 plus 110, they'll give you 270 computers. So let's look at where this point is. So for 2,700 tons of wheat, they'll be just above this halfway point. That's a 2,700. And then for 270 computers, that's also just above this point of your computers. So find the point, 2,700 and 270 computers. And then this point is the new consumption point with trade. Now, guys, I want you to look at that point carefully. Remember we just talked about this before in the previous slides, that we said any point to the outside of PPF, we call that impossible because we don't have enough resource to consume at that point. But see what's happening right now? With trade, US can consume that point that's outside, which was impossible before. It's now becoming impossible because of trade. So for this trade, US is better off. We're better off with trade. Now, maybe that means Japan is worse off. So let's look at Japan. So for Japan, they're sending away 110 computers. So it's not a 6. 110 computers. So they're gonna have 130 computers left. Now they don't produce any wheat, but they're getting 700 tons of wheat, and which means they will have 700 tons of wheat. Remember, this is the stuff they get from US. Okay, so for Japan, they have 130 computers, which will be right here. That's 130, just to the right of 120, and then they have 700 tons of wheat, which is also above 600. So find this point, 700, 130. Then this point is Japan's new consumption point, which is also outside of their PPF. So which means Japan with trade, they're also better off. Now, which brings us to one point that we need to mention. That trade is good for everybody. In this case, we just demonstrated, right? So for trade, both countries are able to consume more than what they could before by themselves. So both countries are consuming what used to be impossible. So trade can be good for everybody. Now, when we say everybody, we don't mean everybody individually. We mean the entire country as a whole. Okay. So if you even look at the real world example right now, trade is good for U.S. economy, but it doesn't mean it's good for every single individual in the economy. So you might have some losers because some company might be worse off, but overall, with all the benefit to consumers, trade is good for everybody as a country entirely. All right. If you have any question about that point, ask me, send me emails. Right. So know what's import export. So export, they're good produced domestically, sold overseas. Import, they're good produced overseas, but sold domestically, they're import. Okay. Now, guys, don't think that export is good and import is bad. That's not the case. Because um, let me give you an example why that is. So think about all the stuff you have. We have PS4, we have Xbox, we have TVs or computers. Guess what? All those goods they're imported from other country. That means we have other country producing good for us. And you tell me that's a bad thing, right? That's not a bad thing because we're getting those stuff cheaper. I mean, sure, we're losing some jobs that used to be in America, but guess what? Our economy can self-adjust, and it is self-adjusting. So if you look at our unemployment rate, we're going to show this later on in the later topics, but our unemployment rate doesn't change just because our import went up, or it goes down because export went up. Um, the same with import. Um, one thing you can think about everything you're doing in your household. So, like wash dishes, doing laundry. Wouldn't it be nice if somebody is doing that for you and all you giving them is something you don't want, right? So imagine that you can pay those people with leaves in your garden. Then the worthless to you, well, then why not just pay them, right? And let them do stuff for you. So importing is not always bad. Importing can be good. Okay. All right. We're almost finished. So no, two more slides and then we're over. So no was absolute advantage. So absolute advantage. Actually, let me give you a better definition. So so don't this over here. Don't worry about this. That's not a good definition. So for absolute advantage, it's just whoever can produce more of the good. So between U.S. and Japan, who can produce more computers? Well, that's US. Right? We can do 500 computers, and Japan's only 240. Who can produce more wheat? Well, it's also US because US can produce 5,000 wheat, and then Japan is only 1,200 wheat. So for this absolute advantage, it's about who can produce more of the good. And then it is very possible to have one party with both absolute advantage. In this case, it is the U.S. were good in wheat production and also good in computer production. Now, that doesn't mean trade is based on absolute advantage. Because if trade is based on absolute advantage, then if U.S. has both advantage, then why do we even trade with Japan? So this absolute advantage is not the foundation of trade. The foundation of trade is something called comparative advantage. So this definition is good. Okay, so the ability to produce a good at a lower opportunity cost, we call this the comparative advantage. Um, so whoever have a lower opportunity cost, that's your comparative advantage. Let me show you how to find the comparative advantage because this might be questions on your quiz, on your test. It is not that simple, so it requires a little work. Let me open my OneNote. All right, so to do comparative advantage, we're gonna do something called I call remember. Oh, by the way, this is only in my notes, so it's not in the textbook. And then I believe this is better than what's in the textbook. Okay, so to do the comparative advantage, we're doing something I call the four prices. So the four prices is the price of each good for each country. So for the price in U.S. the computers, the price in U.S. for wheat, the price of Japan for computers, the price of wheat in what? Don't do this. The price of wheat in Japan. All right, so the four prices. Now, for each of the four prices, we're going to do a simple fraction. And then for the simple fraction, we're going to go back to our PPF. So if you look at the PPF, on the PPF, you have many lines. You have lines, you have many points on the line. And then the only thing we care about in the PPF, we only care about the two end points for each country. So how much is the maximum production for each country? This point and this point over here. Now, when you do the 4 prices, this is set up for the fraction. And do a simple fraction, and then whatever price you're looking for. So this is the US computers. The maximum production number goes on the bottom of the fraction. So for the first one, for computer price in US, we can produce a maximum of 500 computers. So that goes on the bottom. And then on top of the fraction is the maximum of the other good. So for wheat, how much we can produce? And that will give you 5,000 wheat. Okay, so 5,000 wheat over 500 computers simplified, then this will be 10 wheat. That means in US, when you produce 1 computer, it will cost you 10 wheat, and that's the opportunity cost. Now, for wheat, same concept. So the maximum number of wheat goes on the bottom, 5,000 wheat, and then computers 500 on top. So 500 over 5,000, that will be 1 over 10 computers. So produce 1 wheat, it will cost us 1 over 10 computers. And then for Japan, same concept, but again, we're going to do maximum computers for Japan. That's 240 computers. And then wheat will be 1,200 wheat. Over here, same thing. 1,200 wheat on the bottom now, because that you're looking for the wheat price over here. And then 240 computers on top. This will be 5 wheat, and then 1 over 5 computers. All right, so the question is, which country between US and Japan, which country has the comparative advantage in the production for computers? So for comparative advantage, we're comparing this opportunity cost. Let me use different color. We're comparing this opportunity cost. So for US, in the computer price, it will cost us 10 wheat. For Japan, in their computer price, it will cost them 5 wheat. So which country has a lower price? Japan, right? So we say Japan, they have a comparative advantage in the production of computers. Now let's look at other good, wheat. Now for wheat, in US, it costs us 110 computer. In Japan, it will cost them 1/5 computer. So which one's lower? US. The US has a lower opportunity cost. So we say that Japan has a comparative advantage in the production for computers, and the US, we have a comparative advantage in the production for wheat. Now, the importance of this comparative advantage that you know that's the good the country is good at, and that's the one they should produce more and export. And that's the case we had in the example. Remember, we had a US exporting wheat and Japan exporting computers, because that's all based on this thing called a comparative advantage. So this comparative advantage is the foundation of trade. That's what trade is based on. And then to find the comparative advantage, just do the 4 prices and then find whichever had lower opportunity cost. That's comparative advantage. Okay. And then guys, we have a little example here. You can try to do it and then see if you get a right answer. Okay. If you need to know the answer, send me an email, and then I will send you back with the correct answer. Okay. All right. All right. So guys, I guess this will conclude our lecture for topic 1. Okay. So have any question, let me know. And remember, I'm always here to help. All right. Bye-bye.